What if the apology you've been waiting for never comes? What if healing isn't about hearing "I'm sorry," but about letting go of needing it? When the people who hurt you the most act like nothing happened, what are you supposed to do with the silence they leave behind? Let's talk about something few dare to say out loud. Sometimes, the people who cause the deepest wounds are not strangers. They're the ones who share your blood, the brother who made you feel invisible, like you didn't matter, the sister who took your vulnerability and used it as a weapon, the sibling who smiled at the dinner table like everything was fine, while you carried the bruises of their silence, their betrayal, or their denial. You trusted them, not because they earned it, but because they were family. And still, they shattered that trust like it meant nothing. Now, they carry on like it never happened. They laugh, they post pictures, they live their lives untouched, while you're left holding a silence that feels heavier than any scream. You wait. You hope, maybe for a message, maybe for a conversation, or just an acknowledgement that what they did wasn't okay. But it never comes, and this is the part no one prepares you for. The waiting, the hoping, the quiet confusion of being betrayed by someone who still expects your loyalty, who still thinks they deserve your love, without ever earning back your trust. People say time heals all wounds, but Stoicism disagrees, because time on its own doesn't heal betrayal that's never spoken about. So what do you do when the person who hurt you refuses to take responsibility? What happens when closure never shows up? This is where Stoic philosophy steps in, not with false promises of justice, but with something even more powerful: inner clarity. The Stoics understood something most people spend their lives avoiding. Peace does not begin when the other person apologizes. Peace begins the moment you stop waiting for them to. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We are not harmed by the actions of others, but by our interpretations of them." And Epictetus reminded us, freedom begins the moment we let go of what we cannot control. That includes waiting for someone else to say they're sorry. This video is for those who've been betrayed by their own family, by the people who are supposed to protect them. It's for those who never got the apology they deserved. For those who carried years of silence in their chest and still showed up with love and loyalty in this journey. We'll explore how to heal without anyone's permission, how to release the weight of anger without becoming cold, and how to rebuild your identity from the ashes, stronger, clearer, and freer than ever. Because you do not need their apology to find peace. You only need the courage to stop waiting for it. But here's a hard question. Why is it so rare to get an apology from those who hurt us, most especially when they're family? In a perfect world, families would be places of healing. In a perfect world, the people who caused the pain would own up to it. But we don't live in a perfect world. In many families, the ones who inflict the most damage are also the ones least likely to admit they did. Why? It begins with roles, the invisible masks that shape family dynamics. Because in many families, the truth isn't welcome roles are. The wise older sibling often believes that admitting fault would be the same as surrendering their authority. They feel they must always be right, so they never apologize. Meanwhile, the younger sibling is expected to forgive automatically, unquestioningly, as if that's their duty. But these family roles, they become invisible prisons. Instead of maturing into self-awareness and accountability, many remain trapped inside the version of themselves they want others to see. They fear breaking that illusion more than they fear losing you. There's also pride. For some people, admitting they were wrong is more painful than the harm they caused. So rather than say those vulnerable words, "I was wrong," they rewrite the story. They dismiss your pain. They minimize what happened. They act as though you pulling away is the problem, not what they did to push you there in time. The entire family dynamic can turn into a silent agreement to protect a false narrative. And the moment you speak up, you become the dramatic one. You set a boundary. Now you're ungrateful. You distance yourself to heal. They call you cold. The truth becomes inconvenience, so they reject it. Not by arguing with facts, but by pretending the problem is you. Instead of offering apology, they expect your silence to return. One woman once shared her story. Her older brother had belittled her for years, mocked her in front of others, brushed off her opinions, made her feel invisible. When she finally stepped away to reclaim her peace, the family didn't question him, they questioned her. They didn't acknowledge the years of pain, only her reaction to it. They called her distant, unkind, cold. This is not rare. In fact, it's a pattern. The person who protects their peace is often painted as the villain, while the one who caused the damage is never asked to explain a thing. And so, closure remains a door locked tightly from the other side. But Stoicism offers a different path. Epictetus once said, "Do not waste what is in your power by wishing for what is not." Waiting for someone else to take responsibility is often a waste of your energy. It hands your peace to the very person who has already proven they won't. Guard it. Closure isn't something you receive. It's something you create. It's not dependent on their change, it's dependent on your clarity. You are allowed to move forward, even if they never look back. You are allowed to heal without their permission. And yes, it's possible you may never hear the words you deserve. You may never receive the apology that would make the past feel settled. But you can still be free. You can still choose peace. Because the power to end that chapter has always belonged to you, not them. Now, let's go deeper. The Stoics taught a sobering truth. One of the greatest sources of human suffering isn't what happens to us, what we expected would happen and never did. In families, this hits harder because we don't just expect decency, we expect love. We expect our siblings to care, to notice when we're mistreated, to speak up when something is unfair. We expect that one day, maybe they'll come back with remorse, that they'll finally see what they've done and say what we've longed to hear. But that expectation, it becomes a quiet prison. It ties our peace to a future that may never exist. And while we wait for it, our life stands still, our wounds stay open, our minds replay 100 what-if scenarios. What if they realize? What if they reach out? What if they finally say the words I need to hear? But year after year, silence answers louder than words. There was a woman with an older sister. When conflict tore their family apart, the younger sister was blamed for everything. Her older sister, who had seen the truth, said nothing. She chose silence over solidarity. Even years later, the younger sister waited for a message, waited for an apology, waited just once for her sister to say, that wasn't right. But that message never came. And once again, the Stoics were right. They warned us not to place our happiness in things beyond our control. Suffering begins the moment we attach our peace to someone else's actions. Expectation often wears the mask of hope, but it is built on fantasy, not fact. We hope for fairness from those who haven't shown fairness. We hope for recognition from those who avoid truth. And while we hope, we bleed. quietly waiting for something that may never arrive. Now, we continue with the harsh but liberating truth. Sometimes those apologies never come. You hope for empathy, you expect understanding, but what if you're placing that hope in people who are more committed to misunderstanding you than ever seeing your truth? Marcus Aurelius wrote something powerful. The closer we align our desires with reality, the more peace we will find. And what does that really mean? It means surrendering the fantasy of what should happen and opening our eyes to what is happening, not with bitterness, not with blame, but with courage. You may desperately want your sibling to grow, to change, to take responsibility, to look you in the eye one day and say, "I understand now. I'm sorry, but here's the reality." They may never do that. They may never grow. They may never reflect. And tragically, that's not something you get to control. But what is in your power? Your response, your perspective, your ability to say, "I am done waiting." So ask yourself truly, what are you waiting for? And is it actually necessary for your peace? What if peace isn't something that comes after they change? What if it's only been paused by your own expectations? Freedom begins the moment you drop the illusion that your happiness depends on someone else acting right. Yes, that even includes your family. Letting go of expectation doesn't mean giving up on people. It means refusing to let their choices dictate the course of your life. You are allowed to stop repeating the same painful story, the one that begins with someday, and you're allowed to write a new one that begins with now. When sorry never comes, letting go of the need for apology, there's a quiet hope buried in so many wounded hearts. It whispers, one day they'll understand. One day they'll come back with remorse. One day they'll say it. "I was wrong. I see it now. I'm sorry." That single moment is imagined over and over. A moment that would finally make it all make sense. That would bring closure, understanding, and peace. But what happens when that moment never comes? What happens when the person who betrayed you continues on as if nothing happened, refusing to take ownership of their actions? Are you supposed to stay stuck, stay broken, keep your life on pause until they decide to act right? This is the trap where many people remain. They tell themselves, "I can't move forward until I hear those 3 words." But that waiting, it becomes a prison. It hands all your power to the very person who hurt you. It says your healing depends on their voice. Your peace depends on their realization, and so your life remains frozen. There was a woman in her 40s who had carried decades of unresolved pain from her older sister. This sister had spread rumors, twisted narratives, and slowly turned the family against her without ever admitting what she did year after year. The woman waited every birthday, every family gathering. She held on to a small flicker of hope for that sign, that message, that apology, but it never came. What did come was something else. Exhaustion. She was tired of waiting, tired of hurting, tired of handing power to someone who had never earned it. One day, she did something powerful. She sat down and wrote the apology she had longed for. Word for word, every sentence she wished her sister would say, with raw honesty, with the emotion she never got to receive. Then, she read it out loud, not to her sister, but to herself, and she cried, not because it fixed the past, but because it freed her from needing it. That is a Stoic truth. You do not need someone else's words to validate your pain. You do not need their permission to let go. The Stoics taught, It is not the insult itself that harms us, but our judgment of it. It's not what they did, it's our lingering attachment to what should have been done. The apology that should have come, the support that should have been there. By letting go of that need, you reclaim your strength. You stop waiting for permission. You realize you are not held back by what happened. You are held back by what you keep hoping will happen. And now, you can finally let go. When you stop waiting for an apology, something unexpected happens. You begin the real work, healing yourself. Letting go of the need for closure from others opens the door to something deeper. You no longer tie your peace to their awareness. You no longer need them to understand you in order to move forward. Instead, you shift the focus inward, and this is where true transformation begins. Forgiveness, through this lens, is not about saying it's okay, because it wasn't. It's about saying, I won't carry this anymore. It's not about excusing the past. It's about refusing to let it define your future. You may never hear the words that would have given you peace, but you can choose to stop needing them, and in that choice lies strength. In that choice lies freedom. Rebuilding your identity after betrayal. When a sibling betrays you, the pain cuts deeper than mere disappointment. It shakes your very foundation. It makes you question not just the relationship, but yourself. You begin to ask painful questions. Was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I deserve what they did? And if even my own family couldn't understand me, who will? That kind of betrayal fractures your sense of identity. Because family is supposed to be the mirror that reflects your worth. But when that mirror becomes warped or cracked, your reflection begins to look unfamiliar even to you. You start doubting your value. You begin rewriting your story based on their actions. And you wonder, does the way they treated me say something permanent about who I am? There was a man who had always been labeled the selfish one in his family. They said he was cold, difficult, ungrateful. But look closer, and you'd see he was the one who gave the most. He offered his time, his money, his support. But there was one thing he didn't give: blind obedience. And for that, he became a target. Over time, he started questioning himself, started believing the labels they gave him. He even felt guilty for simply protecting his own peace. This is the danger of betrayal within families. It doesn't just break your heart, it tries to rewrite your character. It makes you believe you're the villain in a story that was never even yours to begin with. But the Stoics would gently remind you of something important. Your identity does not belong to them. It belongs to you. It is not something handed to you. It is something you define with clarity and intention. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That means you are not obligated to carry the labels they gave you. You don't have to accept the version of you they created to justify their own behavior. You can step outside their story and reclaim the pen. You get to write your own definition. One powerful practice the Stoics might suggest is this: rewrite your narrative. Sit down, reflect. Write the story of your life, not as they told it, but as you see it. Write it from a place of truth, not pain. From a place of clarity, not revenge. Write the version of you that exists when no one else is watching. Write the version of you that's no longer shaped by their judgment. Rebuilding your identity means choosing to see yourself, not as the victim of your family's story, but as the author of your own. You get to decide what matters to you. You get to walk forward without dragging their misunderstanding behind you. You are not who they said you were. You are who you choose to become next. How to release the anger without losing your heart. Anger is a natural reaction to betrayal. It often rises from that gut-deep sense of injustice, the shock of being hurt by someone who should have protected you. In the case of sibling betrayal, anger rarely shows up alone. It hides beneath layers of sadness, confusion, and grief. You may tell yourself, "I'm fine." You may even pretend you've moved on. But deep down, the fire still simmers. The danger isn't in feeling the anger. The danger is in becoming it. When anger lingers too long, it begins to take root. It starts to color your thoughts. It shapes how you see people, how you see yourself. It infects your peace, and when that happens, the person who hurt you continues to control you. There was a man who had cut ties with his family after years of disrespect. Even when you walk away physically, that doesn't mean you've left emotionally, because unless anger is faced and released, it stays quiet but heavy. There was a man who distanced himself from his family after years of emotional neglect. He thought distance would bring peace. He believed that silence would be the solution. But even in that silence, the past still followed him like a shadow. He dreamed of old arguments. He relived the insults in his mind. Every time someone mentioned family, he felt his chest tighten as if the air itself grew thinner. Though he no longer spoke to them, they still lived inside his mind, not because he loved them, but because he hadn't released the anger. The Stoics never saw anger as strength. They saw it as a failure of reason and clarity. Seneca once said, "Anger is a temporary madness. It clouds judgment. It poisons the soul. And perhaps, worst of all, it gives control right back to the person who triggered it. He who angers you conquers you." So how do you release the anger without losing your heart? How do you let go without becoming numb, bitter, or emotionally cold? It starts with something deceptively simple. Honesty amid the anger. Let it come to the surface. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Do it in a safe space, not for drama, but for truth. Do not fake peace. Suppressed anger doesn't disappear, hardens into bitterness, but acknowledged anger, that's the beginning of healing. Once you face it honestly, look at it through the Stoic lens of reason. The Stoics called this process the discipline of assent. What does that mean? It means separating what happened from what you tell yourself about it. You were hurt. That's a fact. But believing that you're forever broken because of it, that's an interpretation. Challenge that. Replace judgment with clarity. A powerful exercise is this. Write a letter to the person who hurt you. Say everything you've never said. Pour out every emotion, every truth, every moment you needed them to understand. But here's the key. Don't send it. This letter is not for them. It's for you. It's your private ritual of release. When you're done, read it aloud, then destroy it, tear it, burn it, let it go. Let that pain leave with the ashes. And don't just stop there, bring your body into the process. Anger doesn't live in words alone. It hides in your breath, your muscles, your posture. So take long walks, breathe deeply, sit in silence with the trees, the sky, the wind. Let nature remind you, the world is wider than your pain. Releasing anger does not mean excusing what happened. It means refusing to let it live inside you any longer. You can let go and still remember. You can forgive and still protect your peace. Don't let their actions steal your ability to feel love. Don't let them turn you into someone you are not. Release it. Not for them. For you. Stoic practice. Choosing peace even when it feels unfair there. A moment in every healing journey when you must face a difficult truth. You can keep waiting for justice, or you can choose peace. And let's be honest, choosing peace feels unfair. It feels like letting them get away with it. It feels like surrender, like admitting defeat. But through the eyes of Stoic philosophy, this is not weakness. This is true strength. Because when a sibling betrays, you and never owns up to it to carry not just the pain, but also a haunting question. If I let this go, does that mean what they did was okay? If I choose peace, am I saying it didn't matter? The answer is no. Choosing peace is not forgetting. It's not pretending. It's not denying what happened. It's facing the full truth, then choosing not to be broken by it. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. People think it means reconciliation, but those two things are not the same. Reconciliation takes two people. It requires effort from both sides, accountability, change, a shared commitment to healing. But forgiveness requires only one. It's a decision and internal shift. It's about releasing the burden from your own heart. There was a woman whose younger brother had stolen from her multiple times. He never apologized. The family kept telling her, be the bigger person, let it go, move on. But what they really meant was, pretend it didn't happen. She refused. She never spoke to him again. But inside herself, she made peace. She didn't wish him harm. She no longer craved revenge. She stopped replaying the hurt. She let go, and in that letting go, she found something stronger than just as she found her strength. The Stoics taught that peace of mind is the highest good. They didn't suppress emotions. They trained to rise above them. They understood inner peace isn't given by the world. It's earned by mastering the world within. Healing isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice, a steady rhythm, and Stoicism offers us a tool to begin. Each morning grounded in strength. One powerful practice is to start each day by repeating a Stoic phrase, something short, something firm, a quiet compass that points you back to yourself. For example, I will not allow what I cannot control to disturb my soul. Let that phrase guide you. When your sibling says something cruel or dismissive, do not react. When they act like nothing ever happened, don't beg to be seen. Hold your ground in silence, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. You don't need to prove your pain. You don't need to convince them of your worth. You don't need to argue for your dignity. You only need to remain rooted in who you are. And who you are is not defined by their apology. It's defined by your values, your calm, your restraint, and your ability to walk away without becoming bitter. Choosing peace in the face of injustice is not weakness. It is the highest act of self-respect. It says, I know what happened. I know what I deserve. And I choose not to let this poison my spirit anymore. That is not surrender. That is Stoic strength in its purest form. Conclusion, the power to close the door is yours. So here we are at the end of a journey that never got the closure it deserved. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement from the one who caused the wound. And yet you are still here, still breathing, still standing, still healing. The sibling who betrayed you may never admit it. They may continue pretending nothing ever happened. They may twist the truth. They may blame you. They may even expect you to return and act like it was all just a misunderstanding. But now, you understand something deeper. You do not need them to make peace with what happened. You do not need their confession to move on. You may never receive closure from them. But that does not mean you cannot create closure for yourself. Closure is not a gift someone hands you. It is a door you choose to shut with your own hands. And on the other side of that door, there is not bitterness. There is peace throughout. This journey, you face truths many people spend their lives avoiding. You've sat with the silence that follows betrayal. You've felt the weight of waiting for an apology that may never come, but you've also discovered the quiet power of letting go. You've learned that your identity is not built on their story, it's built on your truth. You've learned to release anger without losing your capacity to love. You've learned that peace is not something handed to you, it is something you choose, even when it feels unfair. The Stoics never taught us to deny pain. They taught us to transform it. They believed suffering could become strength. We face it with courage and clarity. They taught us that while we cannot control what others do, we can control what we do with what they did. This is now your path. A path where silence does not mean weakness, where distance does not mean hate, where forgiveness does not mean pretending it never happened. You are not walking away because you don't care. You are walking away because you finally do. You don't need your sibling to change. You don't need them to see your side. You don't need them to validate your story. Your healing is not rooted in their recognition. It is rooted in your decision to stop giving your peace away. And now, I invite you to reflect. Have you ever healed without support from the people who hurt you? If so, share your story in the comments. Your voice could be the lifeline someone else is waiting for. If you're still walking the road of self-recovery, hit the like button. Let it be your quiet declaration that no matter how unfair the past has been, you choose peace. And if you want to keep learning how to master your emotions, how to stay strong in the face of pain, and how to rise above the noise with Stoic wisdom, subscribe. This space is for you, not for the person you're waiting to change, but for the person you are becoming. And remember this, you do not need their words to write your ending. You do not need their apology to begin again. You can heal in silence. You can grow in private. You can walk forward with dignity even if they never look back. You may not get closure from them, but you can close the door yourself. And on the other side of that door, peace is waiting. Because while they may never say sorry, you are the one who rose. You are the one who walked away with your spirit intact. And that is a kind of peace they may never understand.